Hey guys, it's Pam with 44 Marketplace, and we are going live today so you can see me finish the companion piece to the one that you guys saw me working on the other night. Here she is with her hardware intact. I showed a picture of it earlier with some hardware, but the hardware was gray and it just wasn't enough for me, so we did some black gilding wax and now it's much better. So a lot of people had questions about if they're blending a piece that's large. This is a chest of drawers. There's the front of it. It is the companion piece to the one we did the other night. So if you're doing something that is just a big flat area, people have asked how to do that. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm going to flip you around and we're going to set you up, hopefully. You guys get to see my dog shirt. Half of my clothes have dogs on them. All right, so I'm going to back you up so that you can see the entire piece that I'm working on. All right, so if you've got a piece that's this size, the first thing I like to do when I start is I like to wet it all the way around, and then I'm going to take my brush, which already has a little bit of paint because I've already blended the other side, and we're going to just go all the way around and get our edges damp. And you know me, I like to start with my dry brush spot in the middle because that's kind of my area that I'm going to have light. And I know it looks like a big giant mess. If you're not familiar with blending, you think, good Lord, what is she doing? And that's fine because it does look like a hot mess right now. But I like to go ahead and set some boundaries that way you can see what I've got going on. And again, if you want to just put a little bit more water on there, you want to make sure it's ready for blending. And then I go with my dark color around the edge because you still got to get that started. And again, it still looks like a hot mess, but you got to get started somewhere. So we're going to go with our blend. And yes, I'm just using the same brush, the Paint Pixie brush, the French round, because it's great to get into the crevices. And we're going to go around, and I know it's like, good Lord have mercy, what is she doing to this piece of furniture? But it's been base coated Dixie Belle driftwood. And you guys saw how we started the other night. All right, so now we've gone around and we've put Hurricane Gray around the edges. And again, still looks like a hot mess. And now we're going to go back in with some Manatee. I don't know what's going on with my focus. Let me back you up and see if it'll catch us again. Come on. There we are. We're a little better now. All right, I don't know why it does that every so often. Okay, hopefully I didn't make anybody too motion sick trying to do this. All right, come on. All right, so now we're going to take our Manatee, we're going to go around, and now keep in mind, you're going to see some drips and stuff, but we're going to blend, so it's not anything to stress about, okay? You just got to kind of get your colors on here, kind of willy-nilly. That's my favorite word when it comes to blending because you just got to get the paint on here because we're going to blend it together. And now we've got paint on here, all right? And it looks like a hot mess, and that's kind of what I want it to look like. Now, I use these. This is lamb's wool, and if my focus does not quit, I don't know what the deal is with it today. Come on, find me. All right, sorry about that. All right, let's try it again. Okay. So now you're going to take your lamb's wool and you're going to blend and kind of go around the edges. And then you're going to kind of go over your white. And now notice that my white's kind of moving around a little. All right. See how we've kind of moved it up and down a little? We want to move it around so that there's not a big white spot. And now you notice that it's really dark around the edges, right? But it's kind of light in the middle. That's when we're going to get our Paint Pixie brush. This is great for blending my big. And see, I've got it it's kind of monotone. Now we're going to go back in and we're going to touch up just a little bit here and there. And you guys know me, I like to do a little bit of blending. Oops, sorry about that. Do a little bit of blending in my box. Got to have a mister bottle to do that. And we're going to put just a little bit of white. It's not white enough in the center for me. So we're going to put just a little bit more of the fluff in the center. And now we're going to blend back out, okay? If I would not put my white back on there, that'd be great. But, you know me, kind of flaky sometimes. All right. So, now get your mister bottle. Make sure your brush is nice and damp. And you're going to start blending on this edge. Okay? You're going to blend your dark back in with your light. Because we've already got it blended except for the edges. And you want to kind of come up to the middle with it. Okay? Come up from the bottom. You want to go back and forth, but you want to come up from the bottom so that you bring that dark into the center, okay? And this really will help it. You'll kind of fade in and fade out. But you want to leave a little bit of the dark up there, you know, because now we're going to go back over this with some wax. But you want to kind of blend, blend, blend. You just kind of go back and forth over it. And bring your grays in. But this way you get to see what it's like to do a big piece. Because a lot of people have seen doing the drawer fronts and everything, and they can do the drawer fronts, but when it comes time to do a big piece, they have a lot of questions about how to do the big pieces. And like I say, I get my lamb's wool, and you want to keep it really, really, really damp so that it blends well. And then when you start moving it around on there, you'll notice, hey Ellen, hey Deb, hey Lynn, I get to see you again, huh? And once you get started moving it around, and if there's not enough depth of color in here for you, you can always put some more of the gray, the dark, the fluff. You can put whatever you want to back in there and just kind of blend it in. Because the whole thing about blending is making sure that you get the color saturation that you're looking for. And it may not happen your first pass at it. A lot of people get frustrated because when they first start, it's like, that doesn't really look like what I want. Well, if it doesn't look like what you want, put some more of one or the other back in there. And just blend it and drag it back in. And make sure that you go, don't make your strokes begin and end at the same place on everything, okay? When you're blending, you want to make sure you bring it up and down and move it around. You want to see movement. It needs to look organic and natural, like your colors just kind of fade into one another. Now, I don't know how well you can see that, but, all right, let's see. Can you see how now we've got kind of a blended thing going on the side? And all we used was the Paint Pixie French Round, and we used our blending pad. And again, this is lamb's wool, has a wooden handle. I keep it damp, and I just go, and then that way we get all of our center done. And I don't know what's going on with my focus. I'm not even touching the camera. Come on, find me. So that way you get to see what it's like to do the side when you've got a big piece like that. Now we're going to spin this thing around, and you're going to get to see while we do the drawers. This is my toy that I got for Christmas, and it's awesome because it's hydraulic, and it will lift my pieces up and drop them down. And while we're working on this one, we're going to drop it down just a hair. All right, so now we've dropped it down, and we're going to start at the bottom and work up so you guys can see. I don't know if you remember, but we did the nightstand the other night, and we usually have a little bit of a dark border around, and we want to have a light center in each one of the drawers. And the difference on the front of the chest of drawers, as you can see, is it has the same drawers as the nightstand is the bottom two, but the top 3, or it looks like 3, has a little bit different, but we're still going to have that same feel in there. But this drawer is actually 1 drawer. It looks like 2, but it's 1 drawer. So we're going to have light here, light here, light here, light here, and here. And the rest of it we're going to have dark and blended. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And if anybody has questions, I'll put my comments back on. And you guys can shoot. Whatever you got, let me know. And you know how I am. I like to start with my dry brush in the center, so I kind of know my boundaries for where I want my light to be, because that's just a good way to start. And I just start blending with my light in the center. And of course, I get a little splush right here while I'm on live. All right, so we're gonna go, 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 go. We're gonna blend there. All right, now can you see that? All right, so now we've blended this so that you can see we've started with the light and we're gonna blend out on this one, okay? So again, gotta have the Mr. bottle because it is invaluable. And we're gonna blend our gray. This is manatee gray. This piece is base coated in driftwood gray. All of these products are Dixie Belle. And these drawers are, of course, much larger than what we did on the nightstand the other night. So we got to make sure we get a lot of water on there so that we're ready for our blending. And we're going to go around with the dark, okay? Because the dark is our outside boundary. Remember what I told you about? I like to base coat everything, but then once I start blending, I like to start blending with boundaries. I like to go ahead and set my boundaries right up front. And don't stress if you get a little bit on this or a little bit on that, because you're going to blend the whole piece. So it's not anything to stress about. A lot of people get freaked out because they've got a little bit of the dark on the light or vice versa or something. That's not anything to stress about. We're going to blend it, and then after we blend all this paint, we still got to put wax on here. You're going to get it. You're going to get it all taken care of. All right, so now we've blended around, and now we're going to fill in. So now we're going to fill in with our gray, and we're going to start our blending process. When we start our blending, we need a little bit more water because we don't want to have it so definite. We want it to be more blended. That's the whole crux of what we're doing, is blend, blend, blend. Okay? And now, if you want to change your boundaries and make it so that it comes in closer, let me see if I can get you guys over here a little closer to what I'm doing. Can you see better now? This big cart only rolls a certain way, so let me see if I can spin it around a little for you to see better. Now, let's see if we spin the camera around, if you can see that a little bit better. All right, so now you can maybe see more of what I'm doing, and we've got our dark color around the edge. And what you're going to do is you're going to go back and you're going to blend all of these together. And you guys get to decide, you know, when you're blending like this piece, because of the natural decoration in the center, I kind of know where I want my boundaries for my colors, but it's just because it's already preset for me, sort of, by the way everything is handled, you know, by the way everything failed. But, I mean, that's not to say that's the only way to do it. It's just the way I choose to do it today. We want to make sure that our design is nice and light, because if you watched the other night, we decided that we wanted it to be a little bit lighter after we painted over it. So tonight we're just going to start with it that way, and we're going to put a little bit of our gray in there because we just want it to all look. All right, so now we've got one drawer fairly blended. do a little bit more here over in the corner. And we're going to call that because we're going to go back into this with some wax shortly. We'll give it a little bit of time to dry, and then we're going to go back in with some wax. All right, so now we're going to go back, and we're going to blend in this time. On this drawer, we started with our light boundary, and we blended out. So again, we're going to do it. We're going to blend in this time if I leave that drawer alone. But you guys know me, I keep on until I think, oh, I don't really like that. All right, so now we're going to blend out. To do it, I like to always start with some water. Get it wet. And I like to go ahead and get it wet. And yes, I do still have a little bit of residual paint on my brush, so it's going to kind of get on there. But we're blending today, right? So it doesn't matter. All right, so now we're going to start with our dark and go out. Now, if you don't want it down on your design, just be careful where you put it. But it's really pretty easy to do if you do it that way. And once we do this drawer, then I'm going to show you how to do the top, because a lot of people had questions about blending the top because it's such a large area, and they seem to find it easier to blend the drawers than they do the top. And that's why I showed you the side first. If you look at blending the side, it's very similar to blending the top, except I kind of like for my top to be a little bit lighter than my sides, and that's just a personal thing. It's not anything specific, it's just a personal thing. So it's totally just me. All right. Okay. Here we are. We're going to blend our gray in, because we're blending in this time. This is Manatee Gray. And we got to get our little thing, and then we'll start blending it all together. I must be really boring today. I'm losing lots of viewers. But this is blending. It's not exciting. Everybody loves to do it, but it's not really that exciting. All right, so now that we've got our gray in place, we're going to go back in and we're going to put our white in the center. And then we're going to start blending it all together. Ooh, we got to have some more water. All right, there's our white. Hey, Stephanie. All right. Okay, so now we've got to start blending it in. We gotta have a little bit more gray. And we're gonna go back in with our dark gray. I don't have nearly enough of it. And I like to bring it in so that it looks very organic. But now you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. It's totally up to you as to how you do it. And every single drawer doesn't have to be exactly the same. A lot of people get all freaked out if it's not the same. In nature, do things occur exactly the same? No, they don't. So if it doesn't look exactly the same from side to side or drawer to drawer, so what? Don't stress about it. Just do it however you like it. And blend. Ooh, I got too much dark right there. We're going to put some gray and cover it up. How about that? All right. All right, so now we want to put a little bit of gray across the front because we don't want it to start white. We just want it light because we're going to go back over this. All right. All right, can you see the difference in the top 3 drawers and the bottom 2 drawers? We've got dark, we've got light, we've got different colors of gray, and we've got What kind of brush are you using? I am using a Paint Pixie brush. It is called a French round. I don't know that you can tell that much about it right now because it's got paint on it, but it is a French round. It makes all of the difference in the world. This piece was base coated in driftwood. We used the outside color. The darker color is Hurricane Gray. The next color is Manatee Gray, and then we used some fluff in the middle, and we are going to use some grunge gray wax. And we're going to use a mixture of the colors on the hardware, and then I'm going to use black gilding wax over the hardware. And then we are also going to use, we might highlight with a little bit of Bestang wax in black and in white, because I just like to have a little bit here and there. But mainly we're going to use grunge gray wax to highlight. Water bottle. I sell these mister bottles because I don't know if you can see, but it just gives a real fine mist. You don't want to squirt droplets on your piece of furniture. So that's why I started selling these, because these give a real fine mist and just make it so that your piece is not wet, but that it is damp, so that you've got a mist, a water mist on there. And I mean, really, that's all that we're going to do. We're going to do the same thing to these top two drawers. It looks like three, but it's just top two drawers. We're going to kind of highlight this. We've still got some work to do down here on the bottom, which is very similar to what we did on the other pieces. But as you can see, we've got the outside edge is a little darker. And I mean, this picture doesn't give you the depth of color that really it is on this piece. This piece has great depth with all three of the grays and the fluff. And Stephanie, come by and get one. I've got them here at the store, or I can ship them to you. But we're going to do the rest of the piece. But I did want you, those who arrived late, we blended this side. I don't know if you can see, but we blended this side so that you could see it blended with a large area. And when I blend with a large area, I use a lamb's wool applicator with a wooden handle, because that makes it great for blending the large areas versus using a French round. So that's what we did, and I'll use the applicator to blend the top as well. So you guys kind of have an idea of what we're working on this piece. And let me pull you out of here. All right, and those who missed it the other night, I don't know if you can see my little piece. This is the piece we did the other night. This is the companion piece to this. So that's kind of what we're going for right there. Is we're going to do the same thing to the large piece, just on a larger scale. So now if you guys have questions, no, I do not use a roller. I use a lamb's wool applicator with a wooden handle. So I sprayed the base coat with my Earlex sprayer. And a lot of people who blend don't base coat. So it's totally up to you whether or not you base coat. There is the side that we just did. And there is the front two drawers that we just blended. And we are going to do the top three drawers in a similar manner. And then we've got to do the top. So if you guys want to stick around, I can stay live. If not, then I can do it by myself with my music playing too loudly. The colors that I used are Manatee Gray, Driftwood Gray by Dixie Belle, and Hurricane Gray by Dixie Belle, and Fluff by Dixie Belle. All right, we're back in screen, and we are going to get the rest of these done right quick. And like I say, you do not have to base coat. But I like to base coat because when you get ready to start blending, if you don't cover every single bit, because this was just a mid-century brown color, for lack of a better word, it's a nice solid piece of furniture. It's a Bassett piece of furniture. But if you don't cover every single bit of it, then you can end up with some brown showing. But if you base coat the entire piece before you start blending, then you don't have to worry about a little faux pas of brown here or brown there or brown showing in your edges or something like that. And maybe you're a better painter than I am, so you're more careful. But when I'm blending, it's kind of a willy-nilly adventure. And so sometimes I don't get it all. And it used to stress me, but it really doesn't. All right, so we're going to start with our boundaries in the center. And this one's going to have a big boundary because, why? The boundary is big. This drawer is a different size than the one below it. And actually, this drawer is both of these. But we're going to paint them as they're made. All right, so we've got our white. Our dark gray is hurricane gray, and we're going to go around the edges. So we've got to have a little bit of water there. We're going to go around those edges with our hurricane gray. And we're going to have a little bit of space for our manatee gray. And then we're going to blend it all together and make it look beautiful. Right? That's the whole goal. Blending it together and making it look beautiful. All right, so now we got to get our gray in here. And for those of you who have never done lives, they're nerve-wracking because usually things don't work out well. And I am prone to changing my mind. So there's that. So a lot of times when I'm working on something, I'm like, oh, I think I want to do this. And really, no. I get midstream and I'm like, dang it, that's really not what I wanted to do right there. So I change my mind and I do the same thing on lives. So, all right. All right, so if anybody has questions, let me know. We are going to blend this in now. And you'll notice that the ends of this are going to be not quite as light as the center because the whole point of blending is so that it looks more, looks more organic. And if my edges aren't as dark, I'll just go back in and add some more dark. You know, there's no set course. As a lot of people think it's a set way of doing things, but it isn't. Everybody who blends differently. And some people are afraid of blending because, oh my gosh, you're just mashing all the colors together. Yeah, you are. You're mashing a lot of colors together, and it's awesome. It's so much fun. It's very freeing because it's kind of like coloring a picture, but you don't really have to color in the lines. And you don't have to say, I want the red crayon or the blue crayon. It's almost like I've seen videos of these women who contour their makeup, and kudos to you if you do that, because I just barely even put makeup on, so I can't imagine taking the time to contour it. But it's kind of like contouring the paint. You're doing things that actually enhance the assets of the piece of furniture that you're working with. And this piece of furniture has some beautiful, beautiful little assets. So I'm wanting to highlight the center of these drawers, and we're going to put her beautiful hardware back on. And I even equate the nice hardware with, you know, if you're like me, I have very light eyelashes and I only have a few because, you know, I'm of that age. And sometimes mascara is your best friend. It keeps you from looking like you're dead. Well, sometimes the hardware, like when I put it on today. Oh, hey, Kristen. Hey, Tilda. So when if I don't have mascara on, I look like a dead person. Well, the hardware that I put on today looked like a dead person, so I added new hardware. And, I added some black gilding wax to the hardware, and oh my gosh, it's like mascara for her. It looks beautiful. I mean, it's amazing what a difference it made. So, all right. Now you can see that I am that person that just kind of fiddles with it till I get it kind of the way I want it. And then we go from there. Okay? So this one is, we're going to call it done. Even though on your end it kind of looks a lot lighter than the bottom drawer, the bottom two, I don't care. It needs that feel because these are much skinnier than the bottom drawers are. And it looks like too much if you go kind of crazy with it. We're going to blend a little bit of this back in here. And now you notice if you use long strokes, it helps it to have a more blended finish overall. If you use some long strokes, rather than starting and stopping, the long strokes help it to be blended much better. From your end, it kind of looks like the center of that is all white, but it's really not. It's kind of gray. So we're going to go on to the next one. And if you guys want to drop out, I got you. That's fine. But I've got to get this finished, and I've had so many people asking about blending. We're going to hang in here and get it all done. What's the guy that was with Jeff Foxworthy? Get her done. That's what we got to do. We got to get her done. All right, now we're going to go to the next one, this time for sure. All right, this one we are going to work out. We're going to start on the outside and work in. And you can see the way I've got it sitting on here, it's kind of tilted so there's a gap, but when it's actually sitting down on its bottom, instead of on this hydraulic cart, which lifts it up so that I don't have to lean over and sit on the floor and all that fun stuff. It looks beautiful. But right now it's kind of off kilter because I've got it sitting at a weird angle on the cart. Because for some reason it wants to lean forward and I'm afraid it'll tip itself off. All right. Again, remember when you're blending, bring your colors together toward the middle so that you don't have definite starts and stops and things like that, okay? And we're going to blend these sides. I'll blend those after we finish up today on our video. But I just kind of want to get you in the groove of doing this, okay? And a lot of times after I finish the videos, I'll go back in and I see a spot that I really needed a little bit more gray or something like that. And you'll see when you're doing your pieces, sometimes you got heavy-handed in a spot or light-handed in a spot or something like that. And if you notice that, just go back in. I mean, it's blending. It's not rocket science. So just kind of blend it here and blend it there and don't stress about it. It's fun. It's relaxing. We're going to put our little blurb of white in the center and then we're going to blend to it. Okay? Questions? And if anybody wants to know, these are Paint Pixie brushes, French round. I use those a lot. I also use a Wool's Lamb applicator with a wooden handle. I sell the brushes here at the store. I also sell the lamb's wool applicators, and I sell the mister bottles because you can't blend without a mister bottle. I mean, I'll be honest with you. If you try to, it is very frustrating. And I wouldn't say you can't blend, but it is so much easier with a mister bottle. You just can't imagine the difference. But it's kind of like the same with the Paint Pixie brush. You can use a different brush than the French round to do your blending with, but you're not going to, it's going to be harder to get the same results. Because if you look, the brush is rounded at the tip, and it's kind of a cone shape, for lack of a better word, and you just, it just does great. I can't say enough good things about it. And if you keep them clean, they just last and last and last. Now, basically for my base coating though, typically I do use Klingon brushes. I'll be straight up honest with you. If I'm not spraying, I'm usually using a Klingon brush when I'm doing my my base coats, because a Klingon brush is a good brush to use with my Dixie Belle paint. Okay, We want a little bit more darkness here. All right, now let me grab my little bit of gray and we're gonna go on to the top one. And those of you who wanna hang around, I'm gonna show you how to blend the top, because a lot of people still have questions when they're blending large areas. They still seem to struggle a little bit with the large areas. And the large areas are no different than the small areas. You know, you just have to make sure and get them. Let me drop this down just another hair. All right. Tell you what, if you don't have a hydraulic lift cart and you have to handle furniture all the time, it is great. I sell the misters for $9.95. And they are great because they can build up pressure and they'll just keep spraying and spraying if you want them to. They're awesome. Okay, so now we're going to start with the top drawer. We're going to start in the middle again and work out. And you guys know I like to just go ahead and set the boundary, throw my little bit of white there in the center. And it's just like a paint smear, for lack of a better word. Just put a little bit on there. And let's get it started. There we go. All right. Just a willy-nilly kind of thing. Now we've got our paint there. We're going to wet our outside edges. And we're going to go around with our dark. And you don't have to be careful. A lot of people think, oh my goodness, I got too much here and there. We're blending. We're going to go ahead and address our little divider here. Let's just throw a little bit of the dark on there because we're going to put some light on there and blend it out. It's not anything that's super precise. And see this drip right here? Used to, that would have completely flipped me out. But we're blending. We're going to catch it. All right, so now we've got our dark and our light. Let's fill in the gap. And this is, all right, for those of you who are tuning in late, not turning in late, we are using, this piece was base coated with Driftwood Gray by Dixie Belle. And it was, the dark color you see on here is Hurricane Gray. The light color is Fluff. And the medium gray that you see me using is Manatee Gray. And we are going to just blend them all together and make them a big happy family. And you'll notice as they dry a little bit darker. And that's what we like. We like them to dry a little bit darker. Use as much light and as much dark, but you'll notice I don't use, some of these grays are warmer than others because I like to use warm and cool together. Everybody who's watching, if you'll share this video, I'd appreciate it. We're still working on our likes for our page. All right. Now remember, when you're blending, you want to make sure and bring your colors in so that they kind of meld together. And see, we've got our water here, and now we're going to do big long strokes. Remember what I told you, big long strokes. If you notice your brush is dragging just a little, just give it a little mist. Again, if you're using a regular spray bottle, you might not want to spray directly on your piece. You might want to spray your brush. But I use a mister bottle, so I don't have to worry about that as much because it just gives me a fine mist. All right, so now we've got our front done. We've done both of our sides, and we're going to do the top. So hopefully nobody gets too seasick. Well, actually, I'll show you how we're going to do the legs. Typically, when I do the legs, I start at the top and I add gray, the dark gray, the Hurricane Gray, and I like to go right down the center with it just to get it started. And I put just a little bit of water down through there because I start with the dark gray. And then when you look at this leg, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. When you look at this leg, you know from looking at it where you would get a natural light, okay? You know where you're going to see shadows. You know where you're going to see light. It's kind of like photography. you're wanting good light or whatever. Well, when I start with this, I start with the dark, and I make sure I get underneath where there would be a natural shadow. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Hey Jill, I am using Dixie Belle. It was base coated in driftwood. I'm using Dixie Belle Hurricane Gray as the dark color. I'm using Manatee Gray and Fluff. And that's the 4 colors I'm using. And then we're going to go back in with some Grunge Gray wax and do a little bit more highlighting. All right, now because I'm still kind of damp where I sprayed my water, I go back in with my, see, I went back in with my Manatee, and I don't know if you can tell, but it kind of blends it a little bit. If you don't get enough when you're blending, you can always go back in and dry brush some, because a lot of people think you either have to blend or dry brush or whatever, but it's kind of like glazing and things like that. You don't just have to do one or the other. You can combine all of it. I mean, that's the whole point of all of the Dixie Belle products. They layer so well that you don't have to choose glaze or wax or paint. You can use it all. In fact, that's usually what I'm notorious for doing, is using paint and wax and glaze and, you know, lots of different colors. And that's what makes the pieces original, because anybody can throw paint on a piece of furniture. But the more products that you layer in a pleasing way, that's what sets your finishes apart. And with Dixie Belle has 60 colors of paint, 9 colors of glaze, 5 colors of wax. There's just so much for you to layer that your imagination is your only limitation. Hey Dee! So now we've done this one leg, and like I say, once we get our wax, once this dries, we'll put our wax on and we'll do our highlighting like we did on the nightstand. And basically we do highlights and lowlights. And once the wax cures for 48 hours, typically I let it sit for 48 hours, then I go back in and I put my gator hide on there. And our gator hide is the water repellent top coat that I always use on my dressers and my nightstands and my tables. And typically, because I spray my gator hide, I usually put it on the whole piece. What kind of hydraulic lift? I got it at Harbor Freight. It will lift up to 1,000 pounds, and I think the regular price on it's about $269. But you know, they always have a coupon that you can get 20 or 25% off. So it's well worth it, and you will be thrilled if you get one, because it is amazing how easy it makes moving furniture around. And as you guys know, my husband had surgery a couple weeks ago, so he's not allowed to help me lift or anything because he also had a hernia. So this makes it so I don't have to ask him to break any rules. Okay, somebody asked what colors and what order of application. I am a willy-nilly kind of person. I don't think you need to use certain colors, and I don't think there's any certain level of application. I truly think that you should use whatever colors you prefer, and any of the colors blend together well. I mean, I like to blend things that you would not necessarily think go together, because that's what makes it fun. There's really no set rules as to how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, kind of thing, and you wouldn't want there to be. That would take all the fun out of it. All right, guys, I think I am going to sign off. I'm going to finish this piece up, and she will be ready the first of the week here at 44 Marketplace. Be mindful, I do have a blending class in Byron next Saturday, and I have a blending class here at 44 Marketplace 2 weeks from today. I don't think I have but 2 spots left, but you're welcome to call and reserve a spot. And if you have questions, please feel free to text me. Thanks for watching.